seeing some very unusual and surprising sights in terms of the Bangladesh tour of the West Indies, which is happening right now. It is only a very short tour made up of 2 tests and 3 one-day internationals, and so far the 2 test matches have been played and 2 of the one-day internationals have been played, so there is just the final one-day international to be played, and then that's the end of the tour. So it has been very unusual because as far as these 2 teams are concerned, you would think that Bangladesh should be able to do very well, considering that Bangladesh has been in very good form for the last 4 years with a very tightly knit, very high-performing, very confident group of players. You would suspect that they would be very much looking to the opportunity to actually defeat the West Indies. Compare that to the West Indies, who have been going through a very disappointing and difficult time over that same period, the last 4 years. Ever since that purge of players in 2014-15, where the West Indies Cricket Board decided to stop selecting a whole bunch of players for and after the World Cup, the West Indies have had to basically rebuild a significant proportion of their team by bringing in some new players, by changing over their captain, by trying to construct a more stable lineup. They've had to bring old players back, they've had to bring some very young kids in, they've had to swap around and keep shopping and changing their fast bowlers, trying to find a reasonable 11 that can actually do some reasonable things on the cricket field. So the West Indies have experienced lots of defeats over the last 4 years because they've had a very inexperienced, underperforming and underconfident side. So when you compare those 2 teams, you would suspect that Bangladesh would go into this series as the favourites. Of course, the other factor that comes into play, which is very important, is the fact that the West Indies are at home and Bangladesh has not got nearly as good a record away from home as they do at home. When they are playing at home, they often are very competitive. They've won a number of tests, they've won a number of one-day internationals, and they are a very dangerous side. They seem to know their home conditions very intimately and are always able to play well, and for all non-Asian teams going to Bangladesh, actually winning a test series over there is very hard. But going over to the West Indies, where sometimes you find pitches that are very bouncy, where you actually have to play off the back foot, or pitches where there is inconsistent bounce, where you might find that you have to quickly get your bat down if you thought it was going to be short, but it turns out to not bounce as high. It's not going to be conditions that particularly suit Bangladesh's style of cricket in terms of batting technique and strategy, as well as bowling technique and strategy. So the West Indies, simply for the fact that they are playing at home, certainly were in the game, were in the contest and had an opportunity to win. But as far as actually thinking of who could actually construct a victory, who could actually make enough runs, actually be in a position to take 20 wickets and actually be able to close down a test match when the situation called for it, well, Bangladesh should have been the favourites because they're the ones that were most confident and able to construct a victory, most able to formulate those strategies, and most able to put the core executions into practice. But as it turned out, things did not happen in that manner. Things did not go the way that one might have reasonably expected, because instead of that happening, instead of Bangladesh actually putting together a team and a performance and a framework of cricket that would actually allow them to win, they were overwhelmed by the West Indies, particularly when it came to the West Indies fast bowlers. The West Indies fast bowlers were having a ball bowling at Bangladesh. It seemed as though Bangladesh just did not have any answers, and West Indies batsmen were able to put up enough of a performance in terms of just getting enough runs that they could actually create a winning situation for themselves. It was not a huge victory because the West Indies don't have the batting potential to actually put up those huge performances, but in terms of just getting enough runs so that you give your bowlers something to bowl at, the West Indies batsmen did the job. And so certainly, as far as that is concerned, the West Indies, or the whole team, basically put up a really excellent performance, and Bangladesh just could not pull together what was needed to actually either win this game or turn situations around after they find themselves behind on the first innings to actually try to manufacture a victory when the situation is not looking good, when things are going against them, when they have to go uphill. So the two test matches were won quite handsomely by the West Indies, and it was their fast bowlers that really did the job for them. But then we had the one-day internationals. Now we've played two of the one-day internationals, and we still have the final one to be played in the next couple of days, so just holding off judgment in that avenue. But as far as the two one-day internationals that we've seen, we have seen Bangladesh put up a much better performance in terms of their batting. We have seen their very experienced players of Tamim Iqbal, Shakib Al Hassan and Mushraf Rahim all perform well, all score lots of runs. And then in terms of the bowling, they were able to put up competent and reasonable performances, and then one of their bowlers was able to do an absolutely terrific job and take the game away with a whole pile of wickets, particularly Mushraf bin Murtaza, who did an excellent job in Game 1. So, in the two one-day internationals, Bangladesh won the first game by quite a big margin, and then West Indies only just won the second game by a margin of less than 10 runs. So, based on these two performances, it's 1-1 with one game to play. Based on these performances, you have to say that in the one-day international theatre, even though they're away from home, Bangladesh are able to put up a more competent and interesting and reasonable performance. And it seems as though their players do have a very clear plan in mind about how to win one-day internationals, how to construct innings, how to actually put up a big score in the first innings, and then how to defend it, or how to chase it if the case may be. So I don't know what this means for the future, but it seems as though Bangladesh have actually been working really hard at constructing their one-day international style of cricket, which means that even though they're at home, even though they lost the two test matches, they were able to give the West Indies a real threat, winning one of the games and almost winning the other one. So I'm expecting Bangladesh to put up another very good performance in the final one-day international, and that will give a clear marker of just how good Bangladesh are at playing cricket away from home in the shorter form of the game. Not much can be said about them in the longer form of the game. They seem to really not know how to actually win in the West Indies in test matches, but at least they can do it in one-day internationals.